topic in the region. In China's Tianjin, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that Moscow and Tehran remain committed to a diplomatic solution on Iran's nuclear issue. Speaking after an SCO meeting, Lavrov said he and Iranian counterpart Abbas Araghchi discussed peaceful political approaches. He stressed Iran has repeatedly denied building nuclear weapons and no evidence has proven otherwise. Lavrov defended Iran's right to enrich uranium for energy under global treaties. Talks on technical steps will continue. The meeting comes weeks after a brief military escalation involving Israel, Iran, and the US, which ended in a ceasefire brokered by President Donald Trump. Now we go back to our guest discussion with Professor Veselin Popovsky. He's joining us from Bulgaria. Thank you, Professor, for staying with us. Now, how has Russia historically positioned itself in negotiations related to Iran's nuclear program?
Yes, these are already 20 plus years old negotiations. Russia is one of the permanent members of the Security Council. And in fact, those negotiations with Iran involve all 5 permanent members of the Security Council, not only Russia, but also United States, Britain, France, and China, plus Germany. Germany somehow also is part of this group of 6 countries that negotiate with Iran the control over facilities. Basically, what Iran was trying to say is that we need nuclear energy for civilian use. But then questions arises why they enrich uranium in so large numbers, going almost to 60% enriched uranium, which you don't need if the civilian use of uranium is enough to be enriched to 5%. Anything between 5 and 60% enrichment of uranium already signals potentially a development of nuclear weapons. And for that matter, the international community, Russia included, is concerned with that. And that's the history of the problem. The previous agreement, which back in the time of Barack Obama and Donald Trump, the first term, have made. Currently, I think Russia is trying to get the attention out of its own war in Ukraine. And this is why Lavrov is going to North Korea, to Iran. Russia is trying to play the peacemaker role in between United States, Israel, and Iran. Somehow, because they try to suggest they are still a constructive international partner, and in such a way to deviate the attention from its own aggression of Ukraine and killing many civilians in Ukraine. So that's the game of the diplomat, experienced one might say, like Sergei Lavrov. He's an experienced diplomat. And he's trying to present Russia as a peacemaker and potentially a controlling factor against the Iranian development of nuclear weapons.
And building on that answer, what are the key provisions of international treaties that allow Iran to actually enrich uranium for civilian energy purposes? And how do these apply to Lavrov's recent statements?
Well, the international law is very clear that there should be no proliferation of nuclear weapons, something that Iran definitely violates, and also North Korea violates. As I mentioned, the rule is any country can develop enriching uranium, but only for civilian use, only up to 5% enrichment and no more than that. Every country that cheats and hides and manipulates and doesn't offer its facility for inspections already raised doubts, and that's exactly what happened. Iran is not very transparent and not very compliant with the regime established by the International Atomic Energy Agency based in Vienna, which is the primary expert body to monitor, to inspect, and to verify that countries do not enrich uranium to the danger of level of military use. So for that matter, yes, Iran is in violation of international rules. And for Russia, this is, again, as I said, an attempt to engage in some sort of diplomacy. Well, anything that Putin and Lavrov try to talk even with anybody else in the world, they regard it as kind of a positive legitimation for their own existence, because otherwise they will be totally isolated as aggressors in Ukraine. So it's understandable why Russia is involved in that, but that should not distract the international community from Russian own violations of international, Russian own aggression against Ukraine. So hopefully, back to Iran, some constraints can be imposed on the Iranian regime to comply with the non-proliferation regime, and kind of there is an agreement on that. In fact, even Russia and China officially continue to say that Iran should not develop nuclear weapons, although we don't know what Russia does behind the officiality of that. There are suspicions that, in fact, Russia is the country that supplies Iran and North Korea with a lot of technology and know-how in terms of developing nuclear weapons. Again, we don't know, it's just a guess, just a speculation, but we need to see what happens next as to make such evaluation and judgment.
Thank you very much.